Hello there.
Hello, everybody.
Friends, lovers. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, and a special guest. We are in a special studio in a special place on a special day talking to you, special people. I think we need some special education to get through this one. This is going to be fun. Thank you for joining us, folks. Taking me a minute to get the internet up here on my other machine, so I don't even know who's in the audience, but you've got that, don't you, Amy? Amy
yeah,
will keep an eye on y'all in the chat. Favorite part of the show, and we need to get feedback from you because it's the Election Day special. That's right, Election Day 2024 is, I won't even say it's right around the corner. I won't even say it's this week because here in the United States, and I know half of the folks who watch us, you good people, are in Europe, the UK. Glad you're out there. I know it's getting late there. Although the DST and the BST, the British summertime, and all that straightened out this week. So it's all good. You know what time it is, the usual time, unlike last week. You probably know that today is September. Where did I get September from? It's because I see the S for Sunday. Today is Sunday, November 3rd, 2024, the 308th day of this, your best year yet, but also it's 2 days before Election Day. How can that be? Well, I've already voted.
I've already voted as
You
well.
already voted.
Yes.
If you folks haven't already voted, that's great because we're going to give you some insights on how you might want to vote. But more important than that, if you have already voted, I think that's the important bit of it. How I think about the election postpartum, post having voted, that's the good stuff that we want to talk about today, and we're glad you are here joining us for it. Today, again, is Sunday, November 3rd. 2 days before the election. How do they figure that? It's almost like, how do they figure out when is daylight savings time and when does that end? Like Easter is one of those holidays. It's not always on the same day. Well, Election Day, 2 days before Election Day. Okay, let me keep this on track. I've actually got notes today. We are on the road. We're not in the usual place.
No, we're not.
But I do have notes to work with. Incidentally, the studio that we are in we're in the home of one of the greatest musicians in the state of Michigan.
She is the maker of Orem Natural Candles, and she is principal oboist at a wonderful community orchestra that we have around here that we just came away from, and they played one of the greatest pieces by Tchaikovsky, a short piece, about 14 minutes long, and it's called Capriccio Italian, if I'm saying that correctly. Am I? Okay.
So good.
Our friend's head is shaking, yes.
It's one of those pieces of music, you might say, oh, I don't know that. But when you hear it, you'll say, oh, wait, I do know that. I like that.
You've got to listen to it. It's such a brilliant piece of music. It's only 14 minutes long. It takes you on such a journey, and it's so joyous, and it's powerful.
Great charm. Great charm. Christmas is in 52 days. Why is he talking about Christmas? Well, I always do, but also we mentioned Orem Natural, so you know where to get the best Christmas presents you can send. I love a good Christmas present that, bring it on. I love a good Christmas present that not only is charming, not only is great stuff, not only will people appreciate getting it, and they will say, I like candles, but I didn't know candles could be that good. But also, you got to order them and have them shipped right to people. You don't have to wrap anything. You don't have to do anything. They don't come gift wrap, but they come in, they're boxed beautifully, and they have to be because you don't want a candle that breaks during shipment. No, this is the good stuff. I won't say that a prominent objectivist, whose name I won't mention, even though he's a direct competitor of me in the podcasting community, has been known to order these candles because they're the only ones good enough. I won't say that at all. I'll just say you should join the list of prominent objectivists or just people in general who order those candles. United States Thanksgiving is also coming up this month, 25 days. And Halloween is in just 362 days.
Yeah! Get ready! Oh, by the way, one more thing is the website to Orem Naturals is Orem hyphen.
Yeah, it's orem-naturals.com. AURUM.
Yes.
You gold bugs out there will know where that comes from.
Orem-naturals.com.
And in this community, who isn't a gold bug? So yes, real quick, a couple of on this dates. You're like, you do on this date during the election special? Yes, I'm going to do an on this date on the election because it's all related. Isn't it always? On this date in 1998, former pro wrestler Jesse Ventura is elected the governor of Minnesota.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
I'm going to talk about how to consider this election the bright side of no matter who wins.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said one of the great things about Donald J. Trump, host of The Apprentice, White House edition for 4 years, is, seriously now, in addition to Jesse Ventura teaching us that a pro wrestler could also be a politician,
Oh.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose opinion piece on this election I have linked to in the show notes. Look on that YouTube description.
Because I haven't actually seen that yet.
I would have to reread it to tell you about it. Maybe I'll read a few excerpts from it here. But there is a link in the show notes, a description on both Facebook and YouTube, well worth reading. Point is, Arnold Schwarzenegger was also a governor of one of these great states of the United States of America. And, we've had others. We've had, Sonny Bono of Sunny Share was a mayor in California. But Donald Trump did something unique. Well, it's not literally unique, because one other guy did it too. Same party, by the way. Donald Trump has convinced us, much more than Ronald Reagan ever did, that when you're a young child and you are told you may grow up to be the president of the United States, anybody could grow up to be the president of the United States. Nobody has taught us that lesson more than Donald Trump. Literally any freaking body could be president of the United States. So yes, November 3rd, 1998, Jesse Ventura elected governor of Minnesota. Also on this date, the Chicago Tribune, probably the most famous thing they ever did. The reason why those of us who don't live in Illinois still know what the Chicago Tribune is, declares Dewey defeats Truman. Some of you will know, you've seen the pictures of that headline that was printed in the Chicago Tribune and distributed before they had to call back all the newspapers because, of course, Truman won that election, not Dewey. In 1948, Harry S. Truman would hold up copies of that newspaper and laugh. Dewey defeats. Anything is possible. Literally anything is possible in politics. Anything can happen and probably will. One more on this date. Happy Daylight Saving Day.
Daniel says that the microphone is picking up a lot of background shum. Too sensitive, it sounds like.
Really? I would have guessed it was not sensitive enough. Tell me, folks, about the volume out there. What do you think?
Yeah, tell us, what do you think?
I could turn it down a little bit. I'll have to go out of frame for a moment. Like I say, we're on location. We are off-site. Oh, wait a minute. I have a mouse over here. I don't have to do that. I should have realized. I'm a professional. Of course I can do this. Let's see. We're on this microphone here. You know what? Let me try this. And then Daniel, who is a professional, so he knows about these things. You tell me, Daniel, if that straightened it out.
Yeah, tell us. What do you think?
Because I realized that because we're using a webcam and a microphone and microphones in the computer and all that, we might be picking up background noise from one of those other devices. Again,
okay.
Today is Daylight Savings Time. Well, it's Daylight Savings Day. Daylight Savings Time is over. And the question is, have we had enough of that yet? We're at the point now where just about every year somebody introduces a bill in Congress to end it. And the freaking peers of them never pick it up. It never gets taken seriously. I've been saying since I met Benjamin Franklin 300 years ago, don't change the clocks. Just change your schedule. You find that on this interesting day, when we are out in the field on special occasion, I'm almost using profanity. Well, a little word of warning. We're going to discuss in relation to the election, and not for the reason you might think, BS. And we may end up using the word that is an abbreviation for. I always warn people because we're so G-rated. We never use profanity on this show. And so when we do, it's a special event and people should tune in.
Hide your ears.
Hide your ears. So under the category of hot topics for this week, and what are we listening to? It's all about the election.
Yeah.
So Amy, what have you listened to in regard to the election? You tell me and tell all of them. I'm going to get my feeds up here.
Well, okay. So I've listened to a lot of things. I've listened to the Barry Weiss is on, honestly, the Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro debate.
That was a good debate.
That was
wasn't
really good.
Perfect, but it may have been the best one that I've heard.
It was good. It was a lot of good content. At least half of what you were listening to is going to provide you a lot of interesting insight. There's also
I was
let's see.
thinking the only better debate would be if me and Dr. Leonard Peikoff had a debate. That would have been cool. But Ben Shapiro versus Sam Harris, that was pretty good too.
Yeah, so let's see. And also we've got the, there is a segment of Honestly. It wasn't,
you're getting into it. Okay, here comes your profanity alert, folks.
Okay, basically it's another Honestly podcast.
And the title?
It's not with Barry Weiss. It's some other guy, I forget his name, who's a little bit more irreverent, I should say, and was not, I would say, Robert did not like the cut of this guy's jib. I'll just say that. But
my style.
I mean, I listened for the content. I mean, I didn't listen for the style of the guy speaking. Okay.
Right.
So it is called Trump and the Art of the B.S.er, or more fully spelled out.
Bullshitter.
Oh, you said it, not me.
I told people we were going to use improper language because, considering what we're talking about, let's not try to make it too pretty.
Okay, well, I'll.
Oh, did we get an answer from Daniel about the audio? Did that fix the?
Let's
the
see
issue?
here.
I've got chat up. I'll look here.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Static.
So Trump and the
I
art
guess
of
there's still a bit of static.
still a bit of static.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tweak things a little bit more. Huh. Okay.
And Daniel says it's still there, but also, are you a bit quieter than usual? Are there things connected properly?
They are, but we're using, as you can see, we're using a dynamic microphone. The musicians out there will know what a Shure SM Beta 58A is. It's an outstanding microphone, but it's the wrong microphone for this application. And the only reason we're using it is because originally we thought we might be outdoors. We might actually be outside broadcasting in the great outdoors. And so, yeah, usually a microphone like this, you would do it close mic'd. You'd be over here in front of the microphone like that. Maybe we'll lean in a little bit more. Lean in is kind of one of those neologisms anyway. Don't people say you should lean in? And then you lean in and they say, stay in your lane. All these new expressions. They just get rid of all of it and we'll know what people are talking about.
Are the levels all the way down for the other sources of audio?
They are, no. Well, they're like sitting on 0.1 or something. But, yeah,
Okay, let's just double check.
Well, what I'll do is I'll mute them. I will mute everything except for this.
Excellent.
And, again, because they were already down, that's not really going to make a difference. But you let me know. You let me know if that's straightened it out.
Yeah, let us know now. How do we sound now?
How do you like me now?
All right. So anyway, so I was listening to this Honestly podcast, and so if you recall last Sunday, we were talking about evil and good, evil versus good.
Well, I know there's a lot of evil out there. There's still good.
Yeah.
Pshaw!
So I was talking about, I basically watched like the series documentary on Netflix called Mr. McMahon. And it's about the creator of the WWE, or before that it was WWF, in the 80s, the World Wrestling Entertainment or Foundation. And
So I assume Mr. McMahon was Vince McMahon?
Vince McMahon,
The
yes.
wrestling promoter guy.
Yeah,
And superstar himself.
Well, who, by the way, who is now indicted for some kind of criminality involving sexual harassment or something.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I can't believe it. Anyway, so I was talking about, on our last podcast, about Donald Trump being affiliated with the World Wrestling Entertainment and how he was an actual manager for one or two or some of the wrestling entertainment, the wrestlers, the wrestling entertainers. As we all know, there is a what's it called again? Okay, it's going to come to me. There's a term that starts with a K. Tell me in the chat. That basically describes something that you're watching, something that people think, well, is this real or not? And actually, it's not. It's called kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
And that's a wrestling term or professional wrestling term where basically that just means that there's a formula that we're dealing with here. We've got good versus evil. It is scripted, so the wrestlers do know who's going to be winning, or at least usually. And And you've got the heel, who is the bad guy, and you have the baby face, or the face, as they call it, who is the good guy. And so they put them together, and it's like a soap opera. So the wrestlers, act out, in their hyper masculine, over testosterone, steroid riddled way, how much they're going to beat up the bad guy.
Yeah, Daniel Krauss is saying kayfabe with an E at the end.
Yes, kayfabe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually heard it kayfab as well. So anyway, Donald Trump was part of this, and he was really good at being a manager in the World Wrestling Entertainment. As you can imagine, I think he ended up throwing some chairs. I think somebody hit him in the back of the head with a chair, as one does, in these situations. Anyway, this Mr. McMahon documentary was really interesting, at least to me. I'm not particularly a fan of wrestling, by the way. Cyndi Lauper was involved in it for a little while, and that kind of piqued my interest, but I personally hated it for a lot of different reasons. But this Donald Trump and the art of bull pooping, B.S.ing, you can cuss tonight. I'm not going to. So it's too beautiful in here to cuss. I'll just say.
Well, apropos of this week's news, garbage comes out of his mouth. But the point is, and you have to use the word, because it doesn't make any sense if you don't. The whole point of the article and of that particular episode of Honestly, there have been books written on the subject of the difference between lying and bullshitting. God,
Yes.
I hate that expression, but you get the idea. And there are you'll sometimes wonder, why don't people care? When politicians lie, we give them hell. And nobody cares because they all lie anyway, but at least we say, yeah, that's not a good thing, usually when it's the other side doing it. But still, we don't care when we go to the circus and the ringleader or one of the performers says things that aren't, and we don't even say
Right.
they're lying. It's part of the show.
It's
It's something you
storytelling.
expect. When we watch pro wrestling, it's real. These are real athletes. These guys are in great shape. They really are fighting. And they're also not, and it's entirely scripted, and who wins and loses has nothing to do with who's the superior athlete or even who had a better day. So it's real, but it's not real, and it's not a lie. It's bullshit. It's we know it's not real. Well, that is how Donald Trump operates. Now,
I have
if
more to
he-
say. Go ahead.
if he was only ever a pro wrestling promoter, which he was, you might say, oh, yeah, that comes with the territory and it's all very entertaining. There are lots and lots and lots of people who would testify that that's also how he ran his businesses. Not so good. He would say, well, I'm a New York real estate guy. If you want to get around the regulations in New York, you play the game the way they play it. In other words, politics is all lies anyway. So who's going to be good at politics as a real estate developer, getting around the regulators, getting around City Hall, getting around all of the crap? Somebody who spews crap, of course.
Right.
He's
right.
very good at that. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that ironically or sarcastically. He's very good at that.
He knows about the corruption game because he plays it. That's
Yeah.
a paraphrase of what he actually said during one interview. But I'll tell you, okay, so I'll say this. A lot of people in America really don't know, they don't understand how to integrate politics. They don't understand, obviously, that there should be principles, that there are ideas that have founded our government in the United States of America, which makes us extremely unique, which actually, and this is why we have so much prosperity. A lot of people don't understand this.
Yeah, that
And-
sounds kind of old-fashioned and something that's not really on the ballot anymore.
They don't think in terms of checks and balances or rule of law or any of these concepts. We got 3 branches of government. Well, so what? So they've bought, and this is how I've seen this integrated on this Honestly podcast about the Donald Trump and the art of B.S.ing. I really, really appreciated this person's perspective and the way they've integrated it. When you come on as a politician, as a baby face, as the hero, and you come on and you're like, you know what? I'm for freedom. I'm for honesty, read my lips, no new taxes, things like that. And you are the baby face. You are held to a very, very high standard. And if you get caught in a lie, people will completely disown you. Because you've come into the narrative, you come into the storytelling as a hero, and all of a sudden you're not. That completely invalidates you.
It's the opposite of what the Great Pumpkin's looking for. The Great Pumpkin rewards sincerity. Politics, if you're sincere, well, one Aleppo moment and it's all over for you.
Yes, one binder full of women, it's all over for you.
If you're a constant bullshitter, you don't even count those as mistakes. You shrug that stuff off.
So,
you say that was a strength.
If you come into the wrestling ring of politics as a heel, as the bad guy, as the one, he's a bad guy, but he gets things done. He fights. And
it's not even a matter of low standards, because standards are old-fashioned. That's all overrated. Absolutely.
And you come in and you're like, you know what? Here's my story. Here's my narrative. Here's a story that I'm telling. And you know what? Y'all don't mind if I bullshit a little bit. I said it. But that is Donald Trump. If you want to understand, I know a lot of people who don't support Donald Trump, as I do. They don't get this. They don't get that what you're getting out of Donald Trump as a supporter isn't just, oh, well, you know, I think he might be better on freedom of speech. What you're getting, what the average Trumpster, I think a lot of them, in my opinion, are getting is a narrative, is a vision, is a story that he's telling. And you know what else they're getting? Visibility. They're getting psychological visibility. They know this story before. They've heard it before. They know Donald Trump is a heel. But he's going to get into that wrestling ring, and he's going to be entertaining. He's going to fight, and you're going to be able to relate to him. And that is Donald Trump. You're not just getting a politician here. You are getting an entertainer. But where does, of course, the question is, where does reality, or where does fantasy end and reality begin with Donald Trump?
Reality is overrated. No, the admirers of Trump will say, underneath the layers and layers and layers and layers of bullshit, there is a reality. And what you can do is you can look at this list of all the good things that happened under Trump's first administration. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So, the first two items you see on the links, in the description on YouTube, on Facebook, or just listen to us talk about it, exactly. Barry Weiss's podcast, Honestly. Again, the first was a debate between Ben Shapiro, on the Trump side, or at least the vote for Trump side, even though he's no fan of Trump's character, and Sam Harris, who says, are you crazy? You're going to let the guy who told everybody to storm the Capitol on October 6, 2021, be president? Or even run for president? Are you crazy? You see the irony, not just maybe you think that, but Ben Shapiro of all people, who says character is everything. So, you see the irony there. Links, again, to that and Trump and the Art of the Bullshitter, both in there. Sam Harris, in general, has been very good on a number of things lately. Mm-hmm. He would be so good if he actually believed in free will, but for all the good advice he has regarding Trump and the Middle East and the situation in the Ukraine, what can we do about it if we're fully determined by... Well, we're determined by what Sam Harris says, too, so maybe...
True.
Maybe he's doing some good, even though he can't help it.
Anyway. Yeah. So,
yes. In addition, you should listen to the Yaron Brook episode, Why I'm No on Trump. Yaron Brook gives you all his reasons why. Some of them may be things you forgot. Mm. You know, one of the things Robert Trzynski has pointed out about Donald Trump over and over again, because everybody needs to remember that they always forget. What I mean is, Donald Trump does something this week, and you forget what he did last week that was just a deal breaker, like I will never ever vote for this guy. And, well, this week it's something new, and this time it's He's performing fellatio on his microphone. You may have seen the hand job he gave a microphone. They parodied that on Saturday Night Live, actually, where Kamala did appear live, as many presidential candidates have in the past. People were wondering, are you going to do SNL? But we haven't gotten to Kamala yet. Donald Trump, this is his latest thing. So he does that, and you forget that last week he was talking about Arnold Palmer's genitals, and, you know, I've been in the locker room with Arnold Palmer. He's a big man. And it's one thing after another, and every one of them you shrug off because you're like, no, the bar's already been set that low. He set that low when he talked about grabbing women before the first election. So that's all, you know, the expression baked in. We just don't care anymore. How can you not care? Well, because we're so freaking used to it.
And he doesn't really mean that. Oh, no.
He doesn't really mean anything. It's all part of the carnival. It's all part of the sideshow.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. After you listen to Why I'm No on Trump, then you get to listen to a conversation with Leonard Peikoff about the U.S. presidential elections, in which Leonard Peikoff will first... he wrote an essay on this, too. Both of those links are in the show notes. And he starts by warning that, well, only somebody with TDS can deny Donald Trump's accomplishments in his first term. Okay. I'm going to tell you, I am a sworn advocate and proponent of TDS. I have TDS. I am deranged over Donald Trump. But, again, I have a list of 40 accomplishments by Donald Trump in his first term. So even though only people with TDS... How can you... I'm not meaning to disrespect Leonard Peikoff, one of the greatest minds and great benefactor to whom we all own enormous debt. But starting off, he didn't just put this in the middle of the essay. That's starting off an essay with, well, only somebody with TDS denies Donald Trump's accomplishments. I get the logic, because it is logical. Donald Trump did have accomplishments. So if you deny them, you're denying reality, and therefore you have TDS. I get that, but, you know, as the great Captain James Hook would say, bad form.
Wait, was his name James?
Yeah, wasn't Captain Hook's first name James?
I don't know. Tell us in the chat.
Tell us in the chat.
Wait,
I always think
Captain Hook.
My favorite Captain Hook is, of course, Dustin Hoffman in the film Hook. And they give his full name, but now I'm suddenly slipping my memory if it's not James.
It's something like that.
Tell us in the chat. Hook us up. Help us out. Incidentally, Jim Ashley is looking for more profanity. And he's disappointed that it's only coming from me. He wants you to compete with me.
I've already said it once.
Jim famously has criticized me for he's given me poor marks for burlesque. He expected to see a little more male stripper action in episode 69, and he's never forgotten that.
He's always expecting me to drink constantly.
That's true. We do need to do another drinking episode. He's quite right if he wants more of that.
Well, our lovely host here says that we do have some cider, although I don't know if it's alcoholic.
It's probably not spiked, and Jim's not going to be satisfied if it's not spiked. We'll get there someday, really.
It's very good, by the way. Thank you.
The next time we totally can't think of a topic for an episode, nothing interesting happens for 7 days, and my mind doesn't throw something up, we'll do a drinking episode. Absolutely. We can do an Ask Me Anything while we drink everything. That will be fun. I can't promise there will be any burlesque involved.
No.
Although, it depends on how much drinking there is. Incidentally, I have flashed this list of 40 good things.
Sorry. Robin in the chat on YouTube said, Donald Trump won't watch this because he has Robert Nasir derangement syndrome.
RDS. I'm telling you. I guess that would be NDS. NDS, he's got Nasir derangement syndrome.
Very good, Robin.
I don't think anybody who hates me is deranged. I think they have very, very good reasons, and I'm proud of that. Absolutely. My list of 40 good things about Donald Trump, I have to admit, is not my list. There's a girl named Donna.
All right, Donna.
Once upon a looking for Donna time, there was a 16-year-old. No, I'm not going to sing the song from Hair. A, because it's inappropriate, and B, because Donna's a little older than that. But I'm not going to give her last name either. Those of you in the Ayn Rand fan community know who she is. She's an architect. She's amazing. She's awesome.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
But
okay.
she's also a Donald Trump supporter. And when we were having a discussion about our former president and former wrestling promoter and
Formal game show host.
and proprietor of Trump Steaks and now
And-
Trump Bibles, which seem to have done better than the steaks did.
Trump coins and Trump cards.
It's amazing. There are Trump tennis shoes. I say these things and it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. These are all real. Anyway.
There's also a game board, but that's discontinued.
Yes. Well, a lot of the things, his college, Trump University closed down.
Oh, right.
A lot of the things, I'm not sure they ever actually came to pass, even though people threw money at them. Kind of like Founders University, but we're not going to talk about Gary Hull today. No, this list of 40 items, you may notice, is printed with different colors.
Oh, let's see.
I actually, I have
okay.
I have a list. I have a list that's not Donna's list. It's my list of 10 great things that came out of Donald Trump's first term.
All right, tell us.
Like moving the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. And that took some cojones, and it wasn't easy, but it was a great thing to do. It showed enormous support. Some people think that it increased the conflict. It actually lowered the conflict levels. And who else would have done that? Who else had the foolishness or the stones to do that? And why did that happen? One of the other great things that he did, he put Nikki Haley in the UN. She made her the UN ambassador.
It's true.
Now, I have my caveats about Nikki Haley since she decided to drop. She would have been such a great president compared to anybody else who was running. I have a lot of concerns about Nikki Haley, but I would have taken her over just about anybody. I would have taken just about anybody over Trump. We'll get to that in a minute. But you may notice these are printed in different colors, and the reason is I had my list of 10. Donna sent me her list of 40. I thought, oh, good, I'll keep that one too, because I want to know. I want to know all the good stuff that happened in Trump's first term. And then I read it, and it has things like, Trump signed a bill to require airports to provide spaces for breastfeeding moms. Now, I have no problem with spaces for breastfeeding moms. We've seen these little enclosures that women can go into with their infant children and breastfeed without doing it in public and having to throw a blanket over the kid or just do it boldly and not care who gets offended. Does the president have any business mandating that? Another item on her 40 good things Trump did. Low-wage workers are benefiting from higher minimum wages and from corporations that are increasing entry-level pay. That's also printed in red on my list. A, because to the extent Trump had anything to do with it, he shouldn't have. And B, he had nothing to do with it. And C, the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And I don't believe for a minute that anybody is working for that kind of money, except maybe those illegal immigrants without whom our economy would completely collapse. And it goes on. Trump signed the biggest wilderness protection and conservation bill in a decade and designated 375,000 acres as preserved land. There is already too much federal preserved land.
I remember that.
We have 32. I don't even know what the debt is anymore. I know that Trump added $8 trillion to the debt. Is it 34 trillion? Somebody go to usdebt.com. Or is it usdebtclock.com, and tell me what the current U.S. And it doesn't matter because there's also $200 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities. But whether it's 32 or 34 trillion dollars of debt, oh yeah, it'll be in the upper left-hand corner there.
Oh,
are they throwing pop-ups at you or something?
Yeah.
Hate that. Anyway,
It's okay. It's about 36.
$36 trillion. There are very few plans that can make a dent in $36 trillion, but one of the good ones is don't say, here's more land you can't touch. Take those federal lands and sell them. We talk about housing shortages. Why are we sitting on all of this land? I love parks. I love federal preserved lands. There are things there you can't see anywhere else. But is that the business of government? And in particular, is a list of 40 good things that Donald Trump did sent to me by a pro-capitalist. Not just a pro-capitalist, a fan of Ayn Rand, an objectivist. Why does this have so many things that are not actually good things? So, my point, there are green items on here that are good. Find the green items that are good. Trump signed a bill making CBD and hemp legal. I said before, I loathe and despise everything about marijuana. And I have my history. I've had my share. I know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, it should be legal. just kind of like cigarettes. I hate cigarettes too, but they should be legal. I just don't want to be around them. Trump signed a law ending the gag orders on pharmacists that prevented them from sharing money-saving information. We had regulations out there that needed to be torn down. They were protectionist and basically paid for by lobbyists, and he got rid of them. He did a few of those things. Find the good things that he did, make that list, and I'll tell you where to stick it. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what to do with it before we wrap up here. 40 items, and less than a third, maybe a quarter of them are actually pretty good. But that makes 10, and that's what I already had on my list anyway. So, yes, Donald Trump is a great carnival barker. He's a great wrestling promoter. He is a great bullshitter. And my point in that regard is politics is already all lies. Somebody comes along and doesn't just lie. He plays a game with the truth. Is that worse or is that better? And
Well, go
Yeah.
ahead. So one of the other things that was on that Honestly podcast, the last one, was the idea of like the power of positive thinking. The person who was talking, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but it wasn't Barry Weiss, but it was another person. He was talking about, how Donald Trump, when he wrote Art of the Deal or co-wrote it or somebody wrote it for him, I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, when he came up with the concepts of it, that power of positive thinking really played a big part in it. The idea, that, as long, what it comes down, I think what it comes down to for Trump is that he really thinks that, even if his reputation is tarnished or he has 34 lawsuits against him or, he, all this other stuff, it doesn't really matter because if he still thinks that he will be able to, get rid of all the gunk,
swamp.
the swamp, he can unswamp himself, then it's okay because he is a character. He is a and one other thing I wanted to say before was that's the whole power of positive thinking. There is such a thing as like toxic positivity, things like that, where you're completely disregarding reality. You don't really take the facts into consideration, and you're just going to be either Pollyanna or you're going to be an extremely bad manager, managing other people. With Donald Trump, he the whole idea that nothing bad sticks to him because he's always thinking positively about who he is, how powerful he is, how efficacious he is. He's the one who fights. He's the one who gets things done, and that plays into the story.
Yeah, and lest you think, well, maybe I should be a pragmatist and a positive thinker and a narcissist, because it works. It's working for Donald Trump, and it's not working for anybody else in politics. First of all, A, it is working for other people in politics, but B, did I say A or two? B, it's working for everybody. It's just most of the people that it works for, power of positive thinking, constant motivation, absolute self-assurance, but without the bullshit. Most of those people aren't in politics. They're running corporations. They're starting technology companies. They're creating new items. They're breaking through many fields and making many things happen.
Yes.
And ironically, one of those people is actually working with Trump these days. I would take Elon Musk for president over Donald Trump for president, although I have to say not by a very wide margin.
No.
He's pretty damn crazy too, but he's not full of what Donald Trump's full of. So. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's one of these situations where like, okay, is Donald Trump full of himself or is he an empty shell? I would say that he leans towards the whole empty shell thing. He really doesn't have a grasp of his own self-worth.
Yeah.
And therefore he relies on things like, the art of the deal, the power of positive thinking, aphorisms, and
I don't know if he knows the difference between genuine self-esteem and what he's got.
No, I don't think he does.
And I've made this point before. You can be wrong and happy. Mostly by accident, but still. You can't go to somebody who's achieved that level of success and say, you've made $1 billion. Well, in Trump's case, it's probably hundreds of millions. But we pshaw that like he says billion, but it's not a billion. Well, even if you've made hundreds of millions of dollars, go to somebody like that and tell him, I know you figured out that, being full of shit worked for you, and so you think it's cool to do that. But actually, you could be, I'm not going to cut down anything you've done, but you could be even happier than you are if you had real self-esteem, if you had integrity, if you had honesty, if you could look in the mirror and say, I'm not just great like making people like me, I'm actually a great man, a great woman. And you can't do it. That's my point. You can't do it. I used to say you couldn't go to Rush Limbaugh, for example, when he was 60 years old, the most famous broadcaster on AM radio, which mattered back then. Beautiful houses, beautiful family, beautiful wife, very happy, and say, Rush Limbaugh, as successful as you are, if you would crack open that copy of Atlas Shrugged that you've talked about on the radio before and actually reread it, take it to heart, you could be even happier. And I don't think you can do that to Donald Trump either. I don't think you can go to Donald Trump and say, honesty is better than bullshit, because bullshit has worked so well for him. So he is who he is. That's the point. He is who he is. But it is worth, as you say, knowing the difference between your typical politician who lies left and right, and I don't just mean that as a figure of speech, and the Donald Trump, the showman, the carnival barker, and the man who believes that essentially there are carnies and there are marks out there, and the question is, do you want to be a rube, do you want to be a sucker, or do you want to be a winner? That's not what the world's really like, but as screwed up as politics is, it's working for him. Now, since I obviously have TDS, I have to say, we had a conversation on the great Ayn Rand Center UK channel, and one of the topics that came up was Leonard Peikoff's discussion. Again, an essay where he starts it out by saying, only people with TDS deny the accomplishments of Trump's first term. I get the logic, again, but why would you start an essay with an insult? Point is, I was told there's a reason for that. There's a reason why Leonard Peikoff chose to start his essay with, and that's because TDS is a thing. There are people who just are deranged over who Donald Trump is, and they can't think straight. You can't have a reasonable argument with them. And they say terrible things that just aren't true. And here's what I was told. It's unprecedented. This has never happened before. It's never been like this. Now, the person who told me this said, all of the media are on board with it. They're all TDS. Okay, that may be true to a degree, but I remember 2008 and 2012 and Fox News and all of the AM radio hosts, Sean Hannity and Mark Levin. And I remember the boxcars. Do you remember the boxcars?
Oh, yes, those boxcars.
Do you remember there were 100,000 boxcars were accumulated, aggregated in, it couldn't just be Arizona, it's Arizona and New Mexico. I think there was a third state too. And they'd already done it. This had all been done before Obama was coronated, but it was going to be used. Why were they going to do that? Attack Watch. Do you remember Attack Watch?
Yes, well.
Do you remember
flag.gov?
Flag at whitehouse.gov.
If you see something, say something.
If you see something, say something. Send an email to flag@whitehouse.gov.
And the IRS bought all the ammunition.
But that's why you couldn't buy bullets for years. You couldn't get ammo for your personally owned handguns. Why? The IRS bought it all. Why did the IRS buy it all? For two reasons. The obvious one was they wanted a monopoly on it. They wanted you disarmed. The second reason was they needed those weapons because IRS agents, no, not the guys looking at your taxes, the guys with the holsters on their hips, those guys were going to come and take you away, put you on a boxcar. You were going to end up in the internment camps. And it wasn't just that. Those are obviously ridiculous things, which, yes, not everybody on the right, but the leaders of the right-wing communications were saying these things. But it wasn't just that. If you attended any Tea Party rallies, we did attend many Tea Party rallies.
Yep.
One of the things you wondered is, after this reasonable guy who just spoke, probably somebody who came from our group, somebody went up there and said the craziest things. about Barack Obama.
Yes.
And it wasn't just the birth certificate stuff. It wasn't just denying that he was eligible to be president of the United States. It was ran the gamut. TDS is new. TDS is unprecedented. A party has never gone nuts over a candidate before. Barack Obama, look up any of the...
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I've told this story before. We've told this story before, I think. But when I was back in the GOP and I was a state committee woman and delegate.
You were in the GOP?
Yeah, before Donald Trump came on the scene. And so there was, and I don't know if it was 2014 or 15, but the birther situation, it got so heated and there was such anxiety about it with, in our Tea Party group. And we would attend these, dinners and things like that. And people would be really, really up in arms about it. They would really believe that he actually was born in Kenya. If we could only find the real birth certificate, then he could be out of office. Well, I don't know how soon after that, there was a chain email going around that one of the Tea Party members sent around, including to us, and it basically said, Barack Obama has been arrested. He's being escorted out of the White House as we speak. As I write this, his real birth certificate has been found, and it has been proven that he was born in Kenya, and he can no longer be president of the United States. He is ineligible and completely invalid. And they sent this around, and there were like all these chains going on in the email saying, oh, yes, just celebrating. And I'm like, oh my God. They didn't even check the news. They didn't check anything. They didn't check the source. And Robert and I eventually, lobbed the bomb into their email chain and said, so sorry, this actually didn't happen. And by the way, you know who it was who really instigated or popularized the idea of the fake birth certificate was, guess who?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, you're correct. Ding, ding,
Well,
ding.
he was a professional promoter, and he promoted that too. Okay, so I'm looking at the show clock. And
no, that can't be.
I don't know where the last 50 minutes went. So we've kind of been giving Donald a bit of a hard time.
Can we talk smack about Kamala?
We got to talk about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not a bullshitter.
No.
She is either one of two things.
Yeah.
She's either a liar.
Yeah.
Who can do lies like it's nothing and with a big grin on her face. Or she's a complete pragmatist who has no principles whatsoever and can't hold on to a conviction from one term, not even 1 year to the next. The interesting thing about Kamala Harris, I'll learn to pronounce her name properly after a few years of her being president. Something to drink there. I got to choke that one down.
Have some
What
water.
are the alternatives? But the interesting thing about Kamala Harris is that, she has said some extreme things about what she wants, about her convictions. She said she supported a bill for prisoners to be supported in transgender operations while they're in prison. What was the other big one this last couple of weeks?
Well, she wanted to send people of African American descent $20,000 to start a business or something like that.
No, something extreme, something crazy.
What was it?
We have studio audience. Is anybody in the studio? No, okay. Somebody will mention it in the chat.
Okay.
The interesting thing about Kamala Harris, just remember it rhymes with Mamala, which is what her stepchildren call her crazy stepchildren. But they're not her children, they're her stepchildren. But they call her Mamala, so it still counts, right?
I don't understand any of this. Go ahead.
Kamala Harris, if you've watched any of her rallies, and I know some of you are going to say, I ain't going to watch a Kamala Harris rally, it's all lies, but you'll watch a Trump rally. If you've watched any of Kamala Harris's rallies.
Well, Trump makes me feel good and hopeful about things because he's going to make America great again.
Yeah, well, so did wrestle-mania. The Kamala Harris rallies have 2 signs you'll find up posted. 2 big signs, big banners, like these are her things, these are her slogans. One of them says, "A president for all." Yeah, that can sound very welcoming and hopeful, or it can sound really ominous. You may be from the other party, but I'm going to be your president too.
I'm going to get you.
So I thought it sounded very welcoming
for
until
ya.
I thought twice about it. The other banner that is up, "Vote for freedom." The crazy thing about Kamala Harris and her rallies, the speeches that she's been giving, is she keeps talking about freedom and liberty and this will blow minds, except it won't because everybody will say, that's a lie, loving America. Well, the left doesn't love America. The left hates America. The left wants you to die. There are people on the left who want you to die. Well, what we call hatred of the good for being good. Death premise, the denial of all values. There are people like that out there. Either Kamala Harris is a really good liar, or she's just a complete pragmatist. And she loves America the way Barack Obama loved America, which is kind of like Donald Trump loves America. It's going to be a plaything of the president once that person is president. You got to decide which of them is the bigger liar. But even more than that, set all of that aside for a moment and make up that list. So that's what I did. Make up the list of the good things that these people have either done or have promised to do, and the kinds of promises you can actually hold their feet to the fire afterwards. And decide how you're going to vote. But forget your vote. Assume that you're not going to vote. Or like us, you have early voted and you're already done with that nonsense. You went and washed your hands afterwards and then you washed them a second time because it didn't feel like one time did the job. Pull up that list. That's why I've got those lists. I have fewer on the Kamala Harris side, but I have a lot fewer negatives on her side too. Pull up that list of the good things that will happen when Donald Trump becomes president again. And they're out there. I'm not saying that sarcastically. Bad stuff's going to happen, but we're going to fight that. We're going to work on that. And even some of the Republicans will fight that. Certainly all the Democrats will. We survived 4 years of Donald Trump as president. We will survive 4 years of him again. God forbid. Same thing for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. I'll get it right one of these days. Or maybe I won't. Maybe Donald will win and we'll all forget who Ms. Harris was. Incidentally, why do they call her Kamala, but we don't call that other guy Donald?
The same reason they called it Hillary.
They call Hillary
instead of Clinton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had people push back on me on that question because Hillary, we had to call Hillary because Clinton was already Bill.
Could call her Ms. Clinton.
But I still don't hear anybody say, well, I hear very few people say Harris. No, it's just like in Ayn Rand's novels. We don't talk about Miss Taggart. We talk about Dagny. Yeah, but you got to distinguish her from James. But what about Dominique, who we never call Miss Franken?
That harkens back, I think, to the military, where women were not involved in the military, long time ago, and so women were not called by their last names. Men were called by their last names because it was a little bit easier to do roll call because last names were a little bit more distinctive. You wouldn't have so much duplication. But first names for women because that was just not a convention.
That could be. I did think of a more charitable reason that might be happening, which is guys are expected to be tough and spoken to sternly, even rudely. So people would say, Amy, how are you doing today? Hey, Nasir. That would be me, For whatever reason.
Call me Nasir.
Think about Kamala Harris. See, I can say it right if I say it wrong. Think about Kamala Harris. What has she promised? And in the past, what did she deliver? You may be saying she didn't deliver anything. You're going to have to look again. But one thing she did deliver is the same thing that Donald Trump delivered. Now, she was only vice president, and it hasn't quite been 4 years. But what she delivered was she didn't destroy the country. And if she gets 4 more years in the White House, and this time in the big room in the Oval Office, she ain't going to destroy the country again. She might do a lot of damage. I am not denying anything, but no. There are people out there. There are people who have essays on my links in today's episode out there who think that 4 years of Kamala Harris, or 8 years of Kamala Harris, will be enough, not to destroy the country overnight, but to put it on a path from which we can't recover. I could not disagree more. But you got to look at the evidence, stack it all up, figure out where are we progressing, because there are 1,000 ways in which this nation keeps getting better, and where are we completely falling apart, public schools,
So much.
and figure it out for yourself. To me, the evidence is in. Donald Trump can't destroy America. I don't even think he wants to destroy America. I think he just wants to keep it a circus. And Kamala Harris can't destroy America because she is not equivalent to those few cherry-picked worst statements she's ever made. She is boring. She's milquetoast. She's mainstream. She is a typical Democrat. She's not AOC. She's not Bernie Sanders.
She's not Elizabeth Warren.
She's not Rashida Tlaib.
Ugh.
The one reason why I couldn't vote a straight ticket when I voted. Well, there's a hint for you all. No, she's just milquetoast. That's usually a word we use to describe guys. She's mainstream.
Yeah.
She's middle of the road.
Right. She's a pragmatist.
And that's bad,
but
it's not end of the U.S. bad.
Yeah, can I tell you, I'll just say this. And I don't know if we're going to get into our rationales or how we voted, or if anybody wants to hear that.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm not. You can tell people who you voted for if you want.
I'll tell you, I'll say it. I'll say it.
Oh, my God. Well, I hope you didn't cancel out my vote.
No.
Well, how do you know? Well, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. We are keeping an eye on the clock here, but yes, by all means.
Yeah, real quick. You know, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I did not, and I'll just say, I'm so sorry, and I apologize in advance if Kamala Harris does win the presidency, because that's partly my fault. And I'm in a swing state, and I did vote for Harris. Yeah, I know. I'll tell you why. Number one, I don't, of course, like anything about Donald Trump. I'll just say this. I don't trust him. I don't know where he would go with another 4 years. I don't know what he stands for, honestly. Because he's so full of contradictions. Even if I try to buffer it with, he would never do that, I still don't know what he stands for.
He stands for making America great again.
Great. How?
If America was a clown show.
Yeah, I know.
But he means it.
I really couldn't get a grasp on where he would, what he would do. Because he's not going to have the same kind of
smart people around him, because they all now say that they would never support him again.
Right, exactly. And
there's a few still left out there.
And you know, I just in terms of Kamala, you know, Harris, I would say Biden it's been bad, but it's not been end of the world bad, and I trust her on a few things.
You trust her on a few things?
I trust her on a few things.
What do you trust Kamala Harris on?
Well, on 2 things, basically. On reproductive rights for women.
Okay, I agree with that.
Okay. And the other one is pretty much on immigration, pretty much. Because I think that she understands with her mom, I think her mom and father were immigrants, I believe. And so I think she understands that a little bit more. And she may have a better handle on it.
Okay.
But I think with Donald Trump, I don't know where he would be going.
Yeah.
And I've really seriously, and I'll tell you this, I've seriously reached out to friends, objectivist friends, who are voting for Donald Trump, and I asked them, what is your main reasoning for voting for him? And most of them basically said, because he is stronger on the First Amendment, on freedom of speech. And I you know, listened to some other people in objectivism, and I watched the news, and I kind of looked at it a little bit, and I thought, he's too pragmatic in the worst way to promote freedom of speech. I think that if it suits him, he would. But again, if it suits him, what does that mean? What is going to come up? A lot of the stuff that if he becomes president, a lot of his actions are going to be based on what he's reacting to, not on principles, not even on pragmatism, just on kind of what comes up. And I don't know what that is. So I really can't get a feel for how that would be. And of course, I voted on principle against Donald Trump because he is, my God, I mean, he's a charlatan, and he's a scoundrel, and he's a criminal. And you know what? It's not somebody I want to know in my life or be in my life or see on the news anymore. I just don't want to see him on the news anymore. I'll just say that. There was one other reason that I found another objectivist said to vote for Donald Trump was basically it came down to this person feels that Donald Trump really likes America. And because of Donald Trump's emotions towards America, he feels that he can trust him to do the right thing for America. I don't know what that means. I just don't know what that means. The America of the welfare state, the America of I don't know. So anyway, it's been such a interesting time of cognitive dissonance and psychological projection and trying to figure it all out. It's very complex. I don't blame people for voting for Donald Trump. I understand. But I think I have a pretty good rationale, and I can look at myself in the mirror. So, and that's what you should do too. You should figure it all out, figure out what you're going to be comfortable with, what's going to say, I did this, I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm still a good person, I'm proud of myself. Or I did my best. Even if you don't vote, that's another option.
Well, since you went there...
I went there.
I'll give you my 60-second version of that. Yes, I already voted. Yes, I voted against Donald Trump. I voted against Donald Trump because just like Donald Trump, I love America. And I love America too much to let a power-hungry... Well, all politicians are power-hungry. Narcissistic, well, some of them are narcissistic. Dishonest, okay, we covered that. Crude, lecherous, adulterous, dictator envious, free speech threatening, more so I think than Kamala Harris, felonious, and the coup de grace to top it all off, insurrectionist, punk, bullies, schoolyard name-calling. Okay, that would be reasons why you say you don't like Trump. No, the problem with Trump isn't that his policies are worse than anybody on the left. In some cases they are. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Donald Trump has taken a Republican Party that I didn't think could be any worse. And he has single-handedly destroyed it. There is no Republican Party anymore. There is simply the cult of Trump. If you are not a member of the cult of Trump, you've got no job there. People like Justin Amash, people like Liz Cheney, there are 30 people that were in his, and I don't mean, grunts. I don't mean drones. I mean high-level people. 30 people in his administration who say he's a horrible person. They would never support him. He should never touch the White House again. It's not about his policies. It's not about whether he's got better policies than Kamala Harris. It's not even about whether he'll govern better than Kamala Harris. He has destroyed... I got no love for the Republican Party. Why do I care? Here's why. He has destroyed the only opposition to the left. And the left is way, way too dangerous for that. The left is worse than the right, but there is no right anymore. Donald Trump turned it into a personality cult. He has got to go before we are going to have any chance of defeating the left. So yes, I did vote for Kamala Harris. I did not vote straight ticket because Rashida Tlaib is in my district, and I will be damned before I will vote for that person.
Interesting creature.
But my point is, I don't want you to consider who I voted for. I don't want you to consider who Amy voted for. We don't want you to do any of that. All we want you to do is consider our reasons. And more important than that, put this behind you. If you haven't early voted, consider doing it. Or do your voting on Tuesday. Or just decide you're not going to vote. But whatever you decide to do, have that list ready. Whoever wins, be able to look at the bright side. There ain't going to be much of it, but it's there. Those reasons to be happy that Trump won are there. And those reasons to be happy that Kamala Harris won, they're out there. All the stuff you got to fight, all the stuff you've got to be freaking depressed about, that's all still out there too. Don't throw that list away. You're going to be fighting. We're going to be fighting. We're going to be speaking out. We're going to be writing our letters. We're probably going to be out there holding protest signs. We're going to be sending money to the right people. We're going to be doing all the stuff we do. But that's not the whole picture. Find those reasons after the election to be able to say, man, I'm glad that's over. Now let me hold Trump's feet to the fire and get those good things out of it. Or let me hold Harris's feet to the fire and get those good things out of her. If you think, well, but I'm just some guy or some gal, there's not much I can do. Well, your vote doesn't matter either. No election's going to be decided on one vote. The only reason you vote is for your own psychology, your own personal satisfaction. And to be able to, with some credibility, be able to tell other people, yeah, you should vote this way. But no vote is decided on one election. Never go there feeling like if you don't vote and the wrong person wins, you're going to feel guilty. You'll feel conflicted. But it's psychology. It's not about the tally. It's good either way. Another reason why, figure out we talk about the virtue of selfishness. You see this wonderful rack of Ayn Rand books here. And of course, let's see, where is it? The virtue of selfishness. We talk about the virtue of selfishness. With regard to this election, I want you to ask one question. Well, I want you to ask a lot of questions, but one first and foremost. What is in it for you? Make that list. Figure out, however this turns out, what's in it for me. I know some guy's going to say, I'll figure out how to make money from it. He may be president. No. Point is, you figure out. And if you can't think of a single good thing, go on strike. Now, don't quit your job, but just decide, okay, fine, I'm going to ignore politics for the next 4 years, which incidentally is what I did in 2016. It served me well for a while, but I had to do it again in 2000 and I wasn't able to keep it up. You can go on strike, at least to some degree. Have a corner of your mind up here. No, not a little corner you retreat to, a little tiny corner for politics, and the rest of it is for the good stuff. Folks, we've gone too long. We have tested your patience, I'm sure, but I hope you've had as much fun as we have. Is there anything in the chat that I need to answer
yeah,
here?
Robin says, it is a real bookcase. I was right.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm telling you.
This is a real bookcase.
These are not props. We are in the home of one of the greatest musicians and one of the greatest producers and a great...
Cider.
Oh, no. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here. We have a little mess to clean up. Sorry about that. Real quick,
Yeah.
folks, thank you for joining us. We will go live next week, next Sunday. When we do, this whole election thing will be decided. I want you to go with the attitude it's already decided in your mind. I'm not going to do the full show closing. We're on the road. We're on location. Folks, thank you for joining us. Like and share the show. That's all I got to say. Like and share the show. We got to get our numbers up, especially with this new president coming up. It's going to be more and more important that your voices and our voices are heard. Thank you for joining us. As always, we wish you every success that you so richly deserve. You really do. Forget all this other stuff. It is about you. Be selfish, and that is why we wish you love.